When people think about the roots of economic systems, names like Adam Smith, Karl Marx, or Aristotle usually come to mind. But there is another truth that history rarely talks about. Around 1,000 years ago, long before capitalism or central banks existed, a Muslim thinker had already introduced ideas that could surprisingly explain many of the financial problems we experience today. According to him, the destruction of a society usually did not begin with wars, but with money losing its morality. And honestly, when we look at the world we live in today, it becomes very easy to see that. The person we will explore in this story, where money, power, and history are deeply connected, is Al-Ghazali. Do not imagine him as only a religious scholar. He was also an incredibly intelligent thinker who analyzed human behavior, trade, greed, and the effect of money on society. The year is around 1100. While Europe was still struggling with chaos and poverty, the Islamic world was unbelievably powerful. Baghdad, Damascus, and Cairo were among the richest cities in the world. Trade routes were overflowing, markets were expanding, and wealth was rapidly increasing. But beneath all of this growth, Al-Ghazali noticed something else. People were becoming richer, but greed was growing at the same time. And Al-Ghazali asked a very simple yet disturbing question. What happens when a society becomes rich faster than it becomes wise? To find the answer to this question, he turned his attention toward money. And this is exactly what separated him from other thinkers. Because Al-Ghazali did not see money as only an economic tool. To him, money was something that revealed the true behavior of people. He compared money to a mirror. A mirror has no meaning on its own. It only reflects what stands in front of it. Money was the same. It had no meaning by itself. Its real value came from allowing people to trade, produce, and work together. That is why, according to Al-Ghazali, money should not simply be stored away and hidden, because money kept in corners would slow down the economy. It wouldn't create jobs, expand trade, or strengthen society. To him, wealth locked away in chests was like blood that no longer flows through the veins of a society. Think about today's debates surrounding billionaires, offshore accounts, or income inequality. In reality, Al-Ghazali was describing a very similar problem nearly 1,000 years ago. Another one of his remarkable observations was about speculation. He believed it was extremely dangerous when people tried to profit from crises. He argued that merchants who manipulated prices, created artificial shortages, or took advantage of people during difficult times were not only damaging the system itself, but also destroying the public sense of trust. Because to him, the economy was built entirely on trust. And if people stopped trusting one another, markets could no longer survive. Isn't this also the foundation of many financial crises we witness today? People losing trust in banks, governments, corporations, or the system itself. One of Al-Ghazali's most important ideas was also about governments printing money. During his time, some rulers secretly stole from the public by reducing the value of gold and silver coins. Al-Ghazali openly described this as theft, because whenever governments manipulated money, ordinary people were always the first to suffer, and even in those times what he said sounds incredibly modern today. Money is ultimately a belief system. Once people stop trusting that money, the system itself begins to collapse. What we see today in countries like Venezuela, Argentina, or other nations suffering from high inflation is exactly this. People no longer trust the money itself. But according to Al-Ghazali, the problem was never only about money. The real problem was human nature. People hoarded because they feared the future, manipulated because of greed, and normalized unethical behavior simply because everyone else was doing it. And once exploitation becomes normal in a society, collapse has already begun. Perhaps Al-Ghazali's strongest idea was this: if you want to fix an economy, you must first fix the system that shapes human behavior. Because laws alone are never enough. What truly controls people is often fear, ambition, and desire. And honestly, the world we live in today looks very similar to the one he described. Income inequality is growing. People trust state institutions less and less. Financial crises continue to return again and again. Money moves faster than ever before, yet it gradually loses its meaning. Maybe that is why what Al-Ghazali said 1,000 years ago still feels so powerful today. When justice disappears, prosperity cannot survive for long.